Hello, hello, hello. It is that time again, Cafe Conversation, and this is Cheryl coming to you to talk about love. Talk about the five love languages. I got this information from a book by Dr. Gary Chapman, and it's a book that I have read some really, really many years ago, and I found it to be very helpful in relationships, and I've actually used it with some of my clients, my couples. So, it can be used in this context tonight. We're going to talk about intimate relationships, but it can be used with family, friends, children, and even some of your coworkers that you have relationships with, are creating a better work environment. Know those who labor among you. So let's get started. First, I want to start with defining love, and I like to define love by using 1 Corinthians 13:4-8. And it says, love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoice with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. So this is where I try to come from when I am trying to work on my relationships and improving, is coming from this definition of love. Truly trying to be kind, being patient, not holding wrongdoings over someone's head, and every time we get into a disagreement, bringing stuff back from 2010, and here we are in 2020. That's what it means when it says it does not keep a record of wrongs. So I like to come with that definition and think of that in mind as we're talking about these five love languages. So, the five love languages, he has a words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. Let's start with words of affirmation. This is when you use words to build a person up and not tear them down. Let me repeat that. You use your words to build someone up, your partner, to build that partner up and not tear that partner down. It can be compliments, whether it's written or verbal. Words of encouragement are good, and words of affirmation, and they are a very powerful communicator of love. If this is your partner's primary love language, when you say things like, oh my goodness, you look good in that dress, or oh my God, I can't believe how well you did on that presentation, it was awesome, you were amazing. Those are words of affirmation. There are about 3 Bible scriptures that I like to use and kind of use as a reference for when you're talking about words of affirmation and the power of this tongue that we have. So this comes from Proverbs 15:4. A tongue that brings healing is a tree of life, but a deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. So let me repeat that. A tongue that brings healing is a tree of life, but a deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. So this means that we can use the words that come out of our mouth to bring about healing to somebody, or we can use our words to crush someone's spirit. It's a powerful thing. Another one I like to think about when you're talking about disagreements and arguments, or preventing those. Not saying you can't have conflicts in your relationships, but sometimes I say often, pick your battles. Everything is not to be fought. Pick your battles. So this comes from Proverbs 15:1. It says, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Proverbs 15:1. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And then this one always makes me chuckle because I think about us ladies. And this is Proverbs 21:9. And it says, better to live on the corner of a roof than to share a house with a nagging wife. So literally, it is better to live outside on top of a roof. Now, you got to imagine back in biblical times, their roofs were not like our roof. There were actually roofs that you think about a building and having a roof and space on top of the roof. It was better to live out and sleep out in the elements than it was to be in a warm, protected house with a nagging person. So if you tell an individual something once, twice, or maybe even 3 times, and they didn't do it, you telling them 15 times is not going to motivate them to do it even more. So keep that in mind. Words of affirmation, first language, love language there is. All right, the next one is quality time. It is giving someone your undivided attention. Quality time. You do an activity that the person loves, or it's something that both of you can love, but you purposely set out to do this activity with them, and you're giving them your undivided attention. Quality time is about togetherness, not just in proximity of each other, but you're building memories, making memories, doing something together. If their primary love language is quality time, they're wanting to spend time with you. And why is that not a great thing? They like your presence. They feel like you're important, so they want to spend time with you. And on that note, I had someone tell me that, because, we all have very busy schedules, right? And we may be taking children here and there, and we got to work 8 hours, and we may be involved in other community activities. So our schedules are packed. But I had someone say to me, people make time for the things that are important to them. So for a person whose primary love language is quality time, and they know you're busy and you have a hectic schedule, but you make the time to spend to them, do you know that screams volumes for them of how much you love them? Quality time. All right. The next one is receiving gifts. Is another expression of love when you give someone a gift. And it does not matter about the value or how much the gift costs. If it's their primary love language, it's not about the cost of the gift. What it does is let them know that you were thinking about them. And now they have a visual object, something in which they can look at and say, oh my God, he or she loved me because they gave me this. Receiving gifts. But the best gift most often is the gift of you. If your partner's primary love language is receiving gifts, most often they just want you. They want to be in your presence. They want you to be there when there's a celebration going on. They want you to be there when there is crisis happening. They want you to be there when they're going through some kind of trauma. Your presence of being there. And it doesn't mean that you have to say anything, come in and fix nothing, but the fact that you're there will speak volumes to them. If giving gifts is not something that comes natural to you, no worries. This is one of the easiest love languages to learn. Giving gifts. Next is acts of service. This is a person who likes someone to do things for them. So what do I mean by that? It could be washing dishes, doing the laundry, running an errand, taking the kids somewhere for them. They need you to do something for them. This is acts of service. And if this is their primary language and they need to feel like they're feeling loved, when they're asking you to do things, this is how you're going to show them that you love them. Okay? And the very last one is physical touch. Physical touch. It is another great way of showing love, and it really starts from infancy. So I am a strong advocate about babies being held and cuddled. I don't think you can hold a baby too much. And I've heard people say, oh my God, you're going to spoil that child. You're going to never be able to put them down or her down because you're holding them all the time. But research shows that babies who are held, hugged, kissed, develop healthier emotional lives than those who are left for long period of times without physical contact. Starts as kids, starts as babies. And as a person who physical touch is their primary love language, as an adult, Adults, it can come in many forms. It could be holding hands, it could be kissing, it could be hugging, giving a massage, and ultimately it could be sexual activities. Again, we're talking about intimate partners here. So those are the five love language, very briefly described and talked about. How do you know what your primary love language is? Dr. Chapman talks about there's three questions that you can ask. And so I'm going to read them to you. Question number one is, what does your partner do or fail to do that hurts you deeply? The opposite of that is probably your primary love language. So an example would be this. If you're constantly asking your partner to do things together, to go somewhere, to take a weekend off, to go on a picnic, and if they don't do it, it crushes your spirit and it hurts you and it doesn't make you feel as though you're loved, then your primary love language is probably quality time. Another question you can ask is, what have you requested most often from your partner? The thing you have often requested is likely to be the thing that will make you feel most love. So, what could be an example of that? If your primary love language is, again, acts of service, you may ask your partner to pick you up from work on time. Can you go and take this package to the post office for me? Acts of service, doing things for them. And then, this is the third question. In what way do you regularly express love to your partner? Your method of expressing love may be an indication of that you would want them to do to show love to you. So, good example of this is I was having a conversation with a young lady who is 6 months into her relationship, and her significant other likes to give gifts. She really doesn't like gifts. And so when he constantly tries to give her gifts, it creates anxiety in her. And she's like, oh my God, he has to stop. He has to stop. I don't want him to do that. But now on the flip side of that is that she likes to do things for people. And she likes to do things for him. She likes to cook for him. She likes to decorate. She wants to go out and make sure that he helps him pick out furniture. So hers is acts of service. So they're each doing for the other what they would want the partner to do for them in order to feel love. Let me clarify that. Let me see if I can make it a little simpler. So apparently it sounds to me as though his primary love language is receiving gifts. So what he does is give her gifts because that makes him feel love. And so he's automatically thinking, this is how I can show her that I love her. But that's not her primary love language. Her primary love language is acts of service. So what she does is do things for him because, again, that's the way in which she feels love. So let me do for him what makes me feel love, but it's not his primary love language. They're not speaking the same language. So had a little conversation with her and kind of explained and talked to her about the 5 love language and told her to try it out. Haven't gotten any results about what has happened with that, but it was just my suggestion. For me, I feel like I'm a little bilingual, which means that I have 2 love languages that are pretty much equal to each other. So one doesn't dominate over the other. And for me, it is quality time and receiving gifts. Those are the 2 things you can do for me to show me that you love me. Spend time with me and give me gifts. Now, when I talk about quality time, I'm not talking quantity of time, which means I don't need somebody to be under me all the time. But when I have those times and the moments in which I want to go and do something, or I'm having an event and I would like for them to escort me there, and they do that, that shows me that you love me. If I can get a card or rose, it does not necessarily have to be because it's a special occasion, but just because it's Wednesday and you wanted to give this to me. That shows me that you love me. So you can also be bilingual with this thing as well. If you have 2 that are just kind of right there neck and neck. All right. So again, 5 love languages. First one, words of, let me get my stuff here. Words of affirmation, quality of time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. All right, let's put this in a nice little neat bow and wrap it on up. So, in the conclusion of this all, let's remember love is not and should not be demanded, but it should be given freely. You can't make anybody love you. Love brings about a feeling of security. Love is a choice and is a choice that we make constantly throughout our relationships. It is not a one time choice, it's a choice that you have to make every day and sometimes many times throughout the day. But remember, love goes both ways. It goes both ways. It works best when you got two people that are really working at it. A one sided relationship is draining, tiresome, and it lacks a sense of satisfaction. All right, so this is our cafe conversation for tonight. I hope that you had a great week. This is the end of February. We're getting ready to step into March. Not quite sure what we're going to talk about the month coming up for March, but I will let you know. So stay tuned. Have a good one.